I am going to tell you a bloody tale. Once in the 11th century, on a dark night in the Scottish moors, 3 old witches, the weird sisters, meet and decide to confront Macbeth, the Thane of Glamis. He has defeated some rebels and is coming home with his friend Banquo. The witches meet Macbeth on his way home from having killed the rebel MacDonald. He has also defeated the Norwegian king. The witches prophesy to Macbeth that he will be Thane of Cawdor and later King of Scotland. They also say that Banquo's sons will reign Scotland. Macbeth is shocked. He can't believe it. And soon after this, Macbeth hears that he has indeed been made the Thane of Cawdor. He wonders, how is it possible that he will be King of Scotland as long as King Duncan's son Malcolm is in the way? King Duncan is happy with Macbeth. He wants to dine with Macbeth in his castle at Inverness in honor of Macbeth's victory. And Macbeth goes ahead to his castle to inform his wife of the king's coming and to make the preparations. And at his castle, Lady Macbeth urges her husband to kill the king and seize the throne. Macbeth is not sure. When King Duncan arrives at Inverness with his noblemen, he is full of love and appreciation for Macbeth. But Macbeth is in great mental agony. He is well aware of the terrible consequences of such an evil act as killing the king. He sees a dagger in front of him and is horrified. Lady Macbeth is outraged at her husband's indecision. She calls Macbeth a coward and questions his masculinity. She is ready to do the deed herself. Finally, when King Duncan and his guards are asleep, they had drunk a lot of wine and they are now sleeping peacefully. Then Macbeth goes into Duncan's bedchamber and murders the king. He comes out of Duncan's bedchamber with hands bloodied. He's still holding the dagger and he says he heard a voice cry, "Sleep no more, Macbeth doth murder sleep." Suddenly, there is a loud knocking at the gate. Lady Macbeth quickly goes into Duncan's bedchamber to leave the dagger there and smear the watchman with the blood. She then comes and takes Macbeth inside to wash off his blood. "A little water clears us of this deed," she says. Macbeth hopes that the loud knocking will wake Duncan. But no, Macbeth's dark deed is done. King Duncan is dead. Macduff, a noble Scotsman who is loyal to the king, enters. They were the one who were knocking. Macduff enters with Lennox, another nobleman. Macbeth tells them in short, clipped sentences that Duncan is still sleeping. Lennox describes the horrible storms that raged the previous night. And Macbeth enters crying, "Oh, horror, horror, horror!" Because he just discovered that the king had been murdered in his sleep. There is great commotion. Macbeth kills the guards as if in rage, and Lady Macbeth faints. The king's sons, Malcolm and Donalbain, flee from the court. People discuss the horrible, unnatural omens that followed Duncan's murder. And in the midst of all this turmoil, Macbeth is crowned the King of Scotland. Banquo suspects that Macbeth has made true the prophecy of the witches through some foul play. And Macbeth is afraid of Banquo. At a feast, he decides to invite Banquo. But secretly, he sends murderers to finish off Banquo and his sons. They kill Banquo, but his son Fleance escapes. Indeed, Macbeth is wading in a pool of blood. He has gone so deep that he cannot stop wading. At Macbeth's feast at the royal castle at Dunsinane, Macbeth sees Banquo's ghost, and he speaks to the ghost, and everybody understands how perturbed Macbeth's mind is. Some of the noblemen are having their doubts. At that time, on the stormy heath, the witches meet Hecate, the goddess of witchcraft. Hecate asks them to give Macbeth hallucinations by which he will get a false sense of security. Meanwhile, Macduff has gone to England to collect an army against Macbeth. Macbeth's enemies are getting ready. The witches then meet Macbeth once again and show him 3 apparitions. The first is a floating head which warns him against Macduff. Beware of Macduff. The second apparition is a child who says, "None of woman born shall harm Macbeth." Macbeth thinks he is invincible. The third apparition is a child wearing a crown and holding a tree, saying, "Macbeth shall not be defeated until the Birnam Wood comes to Dunsinane Castle." That is not going to happen. Macbeth thinks nothing can defeat him. Following this, there is a procession of 8 kings. The last one carrying a mirror. And behind them, the ghost of Banquo. It means that Macbeth shall be killed and Banquo's sons will reign. Macbeth doesn't understand. The witches dance and disappear, leaving Macbeth baffled. Now, Macbeth decides to deal with Macduff's threat. Macbeth sends murderers to kill Lady Macduff and her son. Macbeth is indeed wading in blood. At that time in England, Macduff urges Malcolm, the son of Duncan, to quickly raise an army against Macbeth. Just then, the Scottish nobleman Ross enters and informs Macbeth that his family has been murdered. Macduff swears revenge. in the king's palace. Everything is not okay. Lady Macbeth is tormented by guilt. She is punished by her own mind. She is sleepwalking with a candle at night. Her words betray her guilt. She hears an imaginary knocking and she goes off to bed. All this is watched by a doctor and a gentlewoman. The English army is ready. They are marching towards Dunsinane. Near Burnham Wood, Malcolm and the English Lord Seward decide that each soldier should carry a tree branch from Burnham Wood so that Macbeth will not know the strength of their army. Macbeth is arrogant and boastful. But then he hears that the Queen, Lady Macbeth, has died. Shocked, he speaks on the passage of time. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day. Life is but a walking shadow, a poor player who struts and frets upon the stage and is heard no more. Life is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. And then Macbeth hears that the Burnham Wood is marching towards Dunsinane. And for the first time, he's afraid for his life. The battle commences. Macbeth is striking at his enemies, thinking that none of them can harm him. But then Macduff, who had been untimely ripped from his mother's womb, confronts Macbeth and kills him off stage. Macduff enters with Macbeth's head, and Malcolm, the son of King Duncan, is pronounced the King of Scotland. This is the story of how uncontrolled ambition can lead you to immorality. It will change your destiny and bring total destruction.